Worked really hard here. Scott loves Nebraska. He'll always be a Husker. He's a Nebraskan, and he worked really, really hard here. He really wanted this thing to work. And I can tell you that I really wanted this thing to work. Our donors wanted it to work. Everybody wanted it to work. I think at the end of the day, there has to be accountability. When you run a professional organization that has high standards, accountability has to matter. And, you know, Scott and I talked about this very clearly. 16-31 obviously was not at a level that was acceptable to us.
And with that, welcome you inside this Monday press conference edition of Big Ten Live. I'm Rick Pizzo. It was, in fact, a dramatic week 2, both on and off the field inside the Big Ten. Scott Frost, no longer the head coach of Nebraska. Typically, you hear from Frost on Monday afternoon. Obviously, that won't be the case moving forward. And this week, temporary head coach Mickey Joseph will actually address the media on Tuesday. So he will be part of your Tuesday press conference schedule. As for the men who will speak today, the usual cast of characters on Monday, you see them on your screen. We will start in just a moment with Jim Harbaugh. One man who typically speaks on Monday, who you will not hear from today, Bret Bielema. That, of course, because Illinois, following that win over Virginia, has a bye week. Before we take you to Ann Arbor to hear from Jim Harbaugh, look back on what happened on Saturday against an overmatched Hawaii team. J.J. McCarthy was absolutely terrific. Jim Harbaugh already saying McCarthy will get the start in week 3 after missing just one pass and throwing 3 touchdowns in that win over Hawaii. Obviously, this topic of conversation not done, not even close, but for now it appears the job is J.J. McCarthy's. And next up on the schedule for Michigan this Saturday at home, finishing off non-conference play against UConn before Big Ten play opens up on September 24th at home against Maryland. And now, as promised, we take you to Ann Arbor to listen in to Jim Harbaugh's weekly press conference.
Appreciation for the team and the way they played. We visualized, we talked about how we wanted to approach the week and what we wanted our team to look like, and in terms of the commitment, the fight, being locked in, the toughness, the hustle, the execution, playing smart, playing fast, and the love of the game, the love of competition, love for teammates. I mean, to me, that's awesome stuff, and it's stuff that you can't fake or manufacture. It's work-driven and heart-driven, and team did that all week of practice, and really brought it to life Saturday night. So, proud of Team 143, and thought it was visible, both in person and from the tape, and didn't let any distraction come in the way of that.
We get started with questions here on the left. Isaiah?
Jim, you said that after the game that JJ had nearly a flawless performance, and then when you look at that 11 for 12 and 4 for 4 the week before, how do you find the things that you need him to work on when you do have him going out and playing so well in those 2 games?
Yeah, take it. We just go about it day by day and practice by practice, play by play.
On the left, John?
Roman Wilson, a couple big plays for you in the first 2 games. Can you just talk a little bit about how he's developed over the last year?
Yeah, it's been super visible, right? I mean, you can see it in the way everything. His focus, his physicality, really jumps out. He's gotten very strong. He's gotten faster. A guy that's already really fast. But just every level of his game is locked in, and very very good. So, but I am in total agreement with you. It's been visible in all areas, taking it to a new level. I mean, very much an ascending player to a player that was already playing at a high level.
Back left, Michael?
Jim, do you have any update to the potential injury for Donovan Edwards?
No, I don't have an update. We're working through something, and he's working through something. And
On the right, Andrew?
You compared this quarterback situation to what you had in San Francisco in 2012, I think it was. What did you learn from that experience dealing with, two quarterbacks like that might help?
yeah, well, broke my own rule of comparing something. So that comparison was really only applicable and only comparable in the way that I compared it, which was they're two really good quarterbacks in Colin Kaepernick and Alex Smith, and once again, two really good quarterbacks in J.J. McCarthy and Cade McNamara.
Larry?
Jim, with a couple of your assistants, Jay and Ron, they've now coached on both sides of the ball. Can you just kind of share your philosophy on that and how much it helps them as coaches to know both sides of the ball? And it seems kind of rare to have coaches bounce back and forth.
Yeah, it's really good from the standpoint of if you're a defensive coach, you really need to know how an offense would be attacking a defense, and if you're an offensive coach, you really need to understand how a defense is defending that same offense. So that works both ways. The value, to that coach, and the value to the unit to have a unit of defensive coaches who had a coach that was on the offensive side of the ball, who knows how offenses want to attack, scheme by scheme, play by play, adds that value to the defense. Same with Ron being on the offense. I mean, there's a lot of meetings. I mean, practically every one where this is what they're trying to do. This is why they're playing that leverage, and it's extremely helpful, and it's really good for the coach. Same as it is for a player. Found that the linebacker who knows how a blocker's trying to attack him, and then vice versa, or Dom Gadis, who spent a better part of a year being a defensive end and a defensive tackle, now playing guard and center. I mean, never seen a guy transition so quick. Now he played it in high school, but also has had that time on task, those reps of understanding how to defend something and what the other side's trying to do and how they're trying to attack you. So it's just multiple in ways that it's helpful. Did you go to Pioneer?
I'm sorry?
Did you go to Pioneer?
Sure, absolutely.
I didn't know that. Let's clank Pioneer rings.
On the left, Aaron?
Jim, one of your quarterbacks took a couple of sacks on Saturday. How much would you like to see pass protection improve the offensive line?
Yeah, we had some leakage. Talk to the guys. It was kind of an individual thing where, yeah, wish I would have had that one back, Coach. Yeah, I know what you mean. I've been there, and so I think I attribute it to that, and we'll get that. Keep working on that.
Stay on the left, Reiner?
Yeah, whether it was directed at him or the offense in general, there were boos heard, I guess, at Michigan Stadium. What's your reaction to that? I mean, do you feel like this is, a reaction that you feel is appropriate, I guess, given the situation?
Yeah, I do, the coaches do, our players do. They embrace the fact that we have two really good quarterbacks. You'd love for your fan base to be able to do that. I don't expect you to do that, but or if you do or don't, it's irrelevant. The main thing is it's a big edge for our team to have two really good quarterbacks, and we as a team embrace that. So outside of that, it would be irrelevant.
On the left, Brandon?
Jim, what you've seen from Grant Newsome for 2 games as being an on-field coach, I know you've watched him go from player to grad assistant and now to here, and what you've seen there from him so far.
Checked every box from the moment he stepped on campus in every way as as a player, as a worker, respected by all his teammates, then respected by all his coaches. He respects everybody on campus and within the team. Anybody that whom he comes in contact with, he has a positive effect on literally everybody. And then transitioning into student assistant and then graduate assistant and now coach, continues to check every single box, doing a great job communicating, doing a great job coaching. He had one of his finest hours last Monday, a week ago, in our opportunity scrimmage, where we have the players who didn't play much in the game or played a single digits amount of plays, 10 or less. They get to be developed, they get to be coached, they get to be to play in scrimmage, etc. And Grant called the plays for the offense. It's the first time our offense has ever. We got 10 minutes. It's a 10-minute scrimmage. So the offense went from the 25-yard line to score, then turn around, went from the 25-yard line, scored again. Then we were down to about 1:43 seconds on the running clock and knocked out another first down before the time ran out. So practice ball went to Grant Newsome, and he was able to check another box. So it just continues on with numbing repetition, the way he checks the boxes.
Alejandro?
Coach, Alan Bowman got extended snaps in the first game. It was Davis Warren against Hawaii. Is it the sense that he stepped into that number 3 spot, or just an opportunity to get some snaps?
Just Davis, yeah. We wanted Alan to get those snaps in the first game, and then Davis to get him in the second game. Just played out exactly. Wanted to get each of them snaps, and Davis got extended snaps. Did very well, I thought. Was able to execute at a really good level, and I was proud of the way he played. Proud of the way Alan played when he got action as well. I could go through a list of guys that just really pleased with how they played. The hustle, the execution, just how much it meant to them. Not getting distracted with extended amount of playing time. Both in the offensive line, at the running back position, the tight end position, the wide receiver position, the D line, linebackers, secondary. Even that last half. We talked about it 0-0. Let's go out and play at 0-0, and it was 17-14. Coming down to the end of the game, it took a goal line stand for us to win that half. So it was some great learning experience for so many, and I thought they acquitted them. Many guys acquitted themselves well.
Brandon?
Curious about the vision for Amarian Walker, if he's trying to figure out if he's offense or defense, or is the plan to be a true two-way guy?
Yeah, the vision there is he's got special, unique abilities in terms of athleticism, and that's something that he wants to do, and something that he is smart enough to do, to be a two-way player. And you saw that play out on Saturday night, and he had extended snaps on defense, and I thought he did really well. So I think he's got a bright future right now, being a two-way player.
Got time for a few more questions before we bring in some players. Got Austin?
Jim, what role did Matt Weiss have in designing some of the quarterback run elements that you use now? Did he bring some ideas from Baltimore that you're using now?
Yes. He did. He brought some of those ideas, and they're good ones.
Was that stuff that you had been doing before, maybe, or was some of it just like completely new stuff that he brought in?
I'd say one new thing in particular and that's particularly the play you saw Alex Orji score on in game one. A lot of the things were the exact things, same things we were doing in San Francisco and here when we had the quarterbacks that could run well, like Dylan McCaffrey and Shea Patterson, and so combination.
I'm gonna go to the last two questions. We'll start with David and then finish with Aaron.
Jim, first two games, obviously there's a lot of shuffling with the depth chart before we got a lot of guys in. As you enter the end of the out-of-conference schedule against UConn, do you think it's going to be a lot more shuffling this week, or do you expect there to be more settled? These are guys that are going to play all 4 quarters.
It's unknowable, standing here on Monday to know that.
Last question, Aaron.
Jim, you mentioned Mason Graham kind of emerging in camp. What does it take for a true freshman to kind of earn your trust and get in there and play as a true freshman?
Yep, play good. Really know what their assignment is, what their alignment is, what their technique is. I mean, just doing their job, and being physically and mentally capable of doing that. He's done that. Kenneth Grant, his plays were in the 30s as well. He's coming along really well. There's a pretty big group of freshmen there, showing that they're capable of doing that. Bodes well for our team.
Welcome back to this Monday press conference edition of Big Ten Live. Like its neighbors from Ann Arbor, the Spartans of Michigan State, no trouble with its non-conference opposition in week 2. All Michigan State shutting out Akron. 5 sacks, 9 tackles for loss, and 4 takeaways in that 52-0 win. Michigan State has outscored its opposition 87-13 in the first couple of weeks. Should be a bit tougher this week. Spartans on the road at Washington in a primetime game on Saturday night. For more on the Huskies and what he's seen from his team through the first couple of weeks, here is Spartan head coach Mel Tucker.
All right, thanks everyone for being here today. Before I talk about the road trip to Washington, just wanted to thank all of our fans for creating a great atmosphere in the woodshed the past couple of weeks. It's been electric. The student section has been outstanding. We really appreciate that. Congratulate Jacoby on getting the Big Ten Defensive Player of the Week for the second straight week, and he leads the nation in sacks and tackles for loss and forced fumbles. Obviously we need to get better in all 3 phases, and that's our focus right now. We just finished our first practice for Washington, and so it's all about stacking days and getting better. So with that, I'll open it up.
Hey Mel, front here. Just wondering, real quick, do you expect Jay Reed to be available on Saturday?
Yeah, he was sore, so he'll be ready when he's ready.
And then as far as Michael Penix is concerned, you guys obviously faced him in 20, and then I know last year it was kind of questionable. How much does that prep you've already kind of built in previous years, does that pay off, right? Even though your personnel is different now in the secondary and overall?
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's going to help us very much, other than we know he's a great player and he's playing at a very high level right now.
I'm wondering, with the Penix situation, I mean, how much do you go back and look at that tape with him working with Kalen DeBoer at Indiana? And I guess what have you seen that kind of translates in Washington's tape versus that Indiana tape?
Yeah, I mean, he's just a really good player. Coach does a really good job with him, and obviously, he's playing at a really high level right now. I mean, they're lighting it up, so. There are some things that we can gather, but that was a couple of years ago, and so we'll just what he's shown so far this year with Coach DeBoer has been pretty impressive.
Mel, you've been home for a couple of weeks. First road game. Do you welcome this environment? Do you welcome this challenge, the camaraderie of a team going on the road?
Yeah, well, it's it is going to be a challenge for us, and we're going to have to prepare, the right way. It's going to be about not just the required work, but it's going to be the unrequired work, the extra, that people don't see, people don't do, people don't want to do, that's necessary to, prepare to go on the road and be able to get the job done against a very good football team. So, yeah, we're preparing for that challenge, absolutely.
Mel, I wanted to try and draw a comparison to going to Miami last year. Obviously, the big focus at Miami was the weather and all that last year, but the idea of going on the road early against a Power 5 team and having success in that sort of environment, can you draw anything from that last year and how you guys were able to do that in this trip, or are they kind of totally two separate things?
Well, in order to go on the road, you have to play opportunistic offense, relentless defense, and you have to be flawless on special teams. And so, being in best condition is going to be a part of it. We have to do a great job of preparing, and we have to do a great job improving in all three phases, technique and fundamentals, so we can play smart, and play fast, and play physical out there. I'm not sure how many parallels there are other than, you go on the road, and you have to be ready to play and be prepared to play 4 quarters of football with extreme effort and physicality and make sure the players know what to do.
Mel, through 2 games, I think some things you really liked about your team and some things that you didn't like as much. Do you feel like you've learned stuff about your team that you didn't know before, and do you think they'll be ready for their first big road game?
Yeah, we're going to prepare like crazy. I mean, that's my job and our job as a staff, to make sure that the players are prepared, for the games, whether it's home, on the road, or regardless of who we play. I mean, the preparation is key, and so I know that our team will play hard. I know they understand that you have to improve, and we did that, throughout the week last week. It had an intentional focus, and we were very uncomfortable last week, and we have to prepare, to a standard, so that we can play at a high level. But I mean, you learn a little bit about your guys every single day. There's always more information, and then you see individual players develop and emerge, and then you see the team, how the team responds to adversity and how the team handles success. And so I'm encouraged by what I see so far, but right now we have one game. That's our focus, is one game, is Washington. It's a very good football team. They've had top recruiting classes, top 25 recruiting classes the last, 4 or 5 years. So they got really good players. Coach DeBoer has been successful everywhere he's been. He's an excellent football coach, and they have very good personnel, and that's a tough place to play. And so, we're gonna find out more about our team on Saturday. But right now, for us, it's about stacking days in our preparation. One, like today, we stacked today. We got the job done today in our preparation, in the meetings and practice. And then for the rest of the day, it's going to be about the unrequired work, and then we'll move on to tomorrow, and we need to stack that day, which is we're going to have the pads on. It's going to be a longer practice. It's going to be more physical. The game plan will unfold more tomorrow. We have to raise our level of intensity in everything that we do, in our focus, and focus is a skill. And so we're really going to have our heads down and really focusing on the task at hand. This is the preparation.
What are the unrequired things you keep referencing?
Well, I mean, it's just like in any other like business or endeavor. You know, you have things that you know, are just things that are basically required, almost like the minimum. Anything, and then there's extra work. And if you want to be great, you know, you have to do extra things to get better. And so that's players on their discretionary time making choices and decisions that will put them in position to, you know, do extra, you know, and which and that's coaches as well and staff, you know, do more than what's prescribed or required. So
Matt mentioned that
film study, you know, things like that. You know, there's you know, treatment, things like that. You know, your body is your business, so you know, whatever you can do extra to take care of yourself. You know, we're asking our guys to go to bed an hour earlier this week in preparation for the trip from, you know, east to west. And then, you know, obviously with, you know, the hydration and things like that. I mean, like, just basically showing up for when we have, you know, prescribed meetings and when we have, you know, practice and things like that. I mean, the guys are going to do that, you know, but really, you know, because the margins are so slim, you know, when you're competing at a high level, you know, if you want to get ahead in anything that you're doing, you're going to have to do a little bit more. You're going to have to do extra if you want to be great. You can't be great at anything if you're not willing to push a little more and do a little extra work.
Matt mentioned the Miami comparison, and I'm wondering from a standpoint of what that, if you do go on the road and you're able to, you put in the unrequired things, which seemed like you did last year, and sort of the confidence and swagger that came out of that game. Is there an opportunity with a game like this, if you do those things, to be able to show the fruits of it a little bit?
Yeah, I don't necessarily. Here's the way I see it. Like I told the players this morning, you know, we're building the story of this year's team right now. Last year's team is gone, and we don't. That's a different team. This is a new team. This is a new season, and so you know, we're focused on, you know, what we have to do on a day-to-day basis to prepare, you know, to play good football. And so, and that's where our focus needs to be. And if you get beyond that, in my opinion, I think it becomes a distraction. You know, because, you know, when you're talking about the results, the end result of something like, you know, right now or even during the week, that means you're not focused on the process. That's like, it's like looking at the scoreboard, you know, during a game, and whether you're up 7 or down 7 or where that dictates how you play. It doesn't, you know, you focus on the journey, you focus on the process, and then, you know, then you just add it up at the end and see where that takes you. You know, so the hypotheticals of what if we do this, then what does that mean, and, you know, comparing, you know, this road game to a road game a year ago, you know, for us, it's really not. That's not really significant. It doesn't really help us prepare.
Mel, on Saturday, you talked about having sort of a special plan, for this game with the time difference, and I know a second ago you talked about going to bed earlier. Is there anything else that entails to get these guys ready for that type of trip? And does your NFL experience help you with that at all? And also, is there anything about contingencies for air quality or anything like that? Because I saw last week that was something that they were sort of monitoring out there, and potential delays or something like that, I guess, at a certain threshold or whatever.
Yeah, so we laid out our sports science team, and our strength coaches and our trainers, laid out some points of emphasis for our players and some protocols that we're going to use, this week and then on the trip, and so we're going to make sure those things get done and make sure we're in the best position to, to be able to compete, at a high level and, be at our best physically and mentally. I'm not sure if I want to go into the details of all that.
Is that about more of the time zone, you think, or the time on an airplane and what that does?
It's all part of it. It's all part of it. Yep. It's all part of it.
Mel, looking back at Saturday, you were able to get a lot of true freshman game experience, but also get Noah some pretty critical snaps. I guess, how important right now is that to have a guy with a backup now who does have that game experience? I guess what were the things that you saw that he drew from that experience and some of those younger guys that were able to get in and get some important snaps?
Yeah, experience is good. I mean, it's nothing like being out there, especially, at home and in front of 70,000 people and, things like that. That's a good experience to have. And if you can go out there and have some success, that's even better. So what did I see out of Noah? I saw the same thing that we see from him in practice every single day, And I've mentioned it before, here. I mean, he's a good player and he throws a really good ball. He's got a lot of arm talent, and he's smart and he's a competitor. I think in high school, his record, I think he maybe lost one game his entire high school career. So, I wasn't surprised when he was able to go in and, execute the game plan. He did a really good job, with getting us into the right plays in the run game as well.
Mel, you talked about the defensive unit really doing a good job filling in Darius's absence, and following up on what Chryst said, Noah looked like he did a pretty good job when Peyton was out. Can you talk a little bit about how your players have kind of really embraced that next man up mentality?
Yeah, well, we've talked to our guys from the very beginning is that we're going to need everyone, and we coach everyone in practice. Like during fall camp, I mean, everyone's getting coached. I mean, the walk-ons are getting coached. We have walk-ons that play in the game that have significant roles, and so because if something does happen, injuries are a part of the game. Unfortunately, when injuries do occur, you got to put somebody in the game. And so the next man up is basically a starter. If you're in the game, you are a starter. That's the mentality. So we have to prepare. We have to prepare our guys that way. And when you get an opportunity, you need to be prepared. You need to be ready. And because you don't, you have to make the most of the opportunity. And so I see guys, was a credit to them and the coaches. I see guys that are ready that are prepared for the moment to go in and execute the game plan. Now, I mean, it's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but we're able to go in there and execute and build our depth, and that's critically important. It's a physical game. It's a long season. The attrition is, I mean, it can be grueling at times, and so you know, we absolutely need everyone to prepare. I mean, you could go in a game, and we ask our coaches to make sure that every player going into a game knows what their role is. Everyone has a clear and defined role. Hey, if you're a starter, that's your role. What's your role? You know, what's your role on special teams? What's your role as a backup, as a rotational guy? You know, maybe you're not going to play. You know, I mean, even if a grenade goes off, you're not going in, but you do still have a role on the if you're dressed, you know, to help your teammates, you know, bring energy, you know, things like that. And so, you know, every role is significant in the game. And so, you don't want guys to go in the game and have drop off. You know, that's bad football right there now, and that's how you get beat.
Jack Stone made his first career field goal on Saturday after missing his first attempt on in the previous game. How important is that for a kicker, especially a young kicker, to get one under his belt before he travels across the country to play Washington?
Yeah, I thought it was good. You know, he's been kicking the ball well in practice, and then he was able to take it to the game. So I know all the guys were happy for him. You know, and so, you know, he's got that experience, and you know, and he can build upon that. So I thought it was great.
Jacoby has a mindset of, why can't I give 6 seconds every play? How do you think that's benefited him in these first 2 games, and how will that benefit you guys as a whole as you go on the road now?
Well, he's a mature player, mature young man, and he understands opportunity, and he understands like what it takes to play great football. And you know, we ask our players to be in the best condition, and so that's the foundation of what we do. And when you're in shape, then there's no reason why you can't give 100%. You know, when giving 100% is like totally your choice. And so that's a mindset. And we talk about, you know, playing 60 minutes, a full 60, not 20 or 30 or, you know, or 55, like a full 60 minutes, you know, one play at a time, 6 seconds a play. And that takes intentional focus. You have to decide, you have to choose ahead of time that's how you're gonna play the game. And in order to play the game that way on game day, you have to practice that way. And that's how he practices, you know. And so, and that's why you're able to have success. And you know, and it's basically just, you know, playing hard with extreme effort. We had 3 things that are mission critical for us. The first thing is knowing what to do. Know what to do. Second thing is play with extreme effort. And the third thing is to be physical. Play physical, hard-nosed, hard-hitting football. You know, and you can do those things, then you're going to have a great chance to have success. And when you see Jacoby play, you know, that's how he plays. He knows what to do. He plays hard, you know, and he's physical. And so, and he's having success on the field.
Mel, I see you're wearing the T-shirt of the week again. Big difference Saturday from what it was in week 1 in terms of creating turnovers. How much of that is taught, and how much of it is guys like Jacoby and Kendall Brooks just flying around and always being at the ball?
It's both. I mean, but the ball, it's the ball. I mean, it's turnover margin. Like we put a graphic up today, and I'm not going to talk about the particular teams, but when you look at like win-loss, like in college football, I think it was like all but 3 teams that, you know, won the turnover margin, won the game. And you scored 28 points off of turnovers, I don't care who you playing. I mean, that gives you a chance, you know, there. And forcing takeaways, you know, that's a conscious effort to do that. So we practice that and we emphasize that, and we show video, we show NFL film, we show other colleges, we show, like, you know, different ways to get the ball off of guys, and we do drills, and then population is key. So, like, if you see some of those takeaways, you know, like, you know, population, how many guys are there, you know, trying to get the ball out, and then, you know, getting close to the quarterback, you know, we're rushing coverage, working together, and then, you know, getting the ball off the quarterback or getting the ball off of you know, running backs and things like that, or playing fast and forcing guys to speed up, you know, and the ball's on the ground, things like that, and getting population in a swarming mentality, you know, because the job on defense is to stop them and get the ball back to the offense and score or set up a score and create a short field, because, you know, like you know, where the drive starts on offense has, you know, like where it is, like the score probability is different. You know, it's a lot more favorable to you, like if you start closer to the goal line. You know, so we give our offense a short field and not ask them to drive, you know, 80, 90 yards. You know, that's not a winning formula. You know, we have to win the turnover margin, and we have to take the ball off of people, and they're not just going to give it to you all the time. You have to force it, and it's a conscious effort. And when you don't take the ball away on defense, you're not playing great defense. You're not playing good defense. I mean, even if you're like, if you are like stopping the run and you're playing good pass defense, and like you're getting off the field on third down, things like that, you know, that's required. You know, I mean, that's kind of like, you know, that's solid, but you're not going to do anything significant, you know, as a football team, because you need to take the ball away and you know, set up scores and score on defense and things like that. That's if you just look at the turnover margin in college football and in the NFL, it's like a huge factor. And so I mean, I just can't tell you how much we talk. I mean, we talk about it, and then taking care of the football is you don't give it away, and you take it away. You know, you give yourself the best chance. I mean, just go and look at some of those games that everyone was talking about, you know, Saturday, and look at the turnover margin, and it tells a story.
I was wondering, 2 games in, what you think of the running attack with, you know, being revamped with Broussard and Berger leading the way?
Man, when you hear a coach talk about working out and then you look at Tucker, you are going to follow those instructions. Jaden Reed's in great shape, but he is sore after running into the Akron bench early in that win. Tuck says, quote, he'll be ready when he's ready. You want to talk about a one-sided affair. All Purdue in its Week 2 win over Indiana State, 56-0 the final, largest win since 2011. Boilermakers outgained the opposition 521-145, and Charlie Jones continues to have one of the greatest starts in Big Ten wide receiving history. 21 catches and 4 touchdowns in 2 games for the former Iowa wideout who transferred to West Lafayette in the offseason, and boy, is Jeff Brohm glad he did. So the bounce back is there after that season-opening loss to Penn State, an easy win over Indiana State, and now a non-conference roadie to Syracuse. Important game for the Boilermakers as they start to look ahead to Big Ten play beginning October 1st on the road at Minnesota. But for now, the focus for Jeff Brohm and Syracuse, that is the only thing the Boilermakers care about right now.
All right. Well, we got our first road game, and it's going to be a tough opponent in Syracuse, who's playing very, very well. I think that right now they're playing very good complementary football. Defense is playing at a high level. Offense is being very efficient, scoring points, taking care of the ball, creating big plays, not beating themselves, and that equals wins. So we'll have our hands full, and it'll be the first test for our team on the road. So we're going to have a good week of practice, prepare well. Syracuse does a lot of things on defense to give you problems. They'll give you a lot of different looks, put a lot of athletes on the field, and challenge the offense to make plays and try to create mistakes. And like I said, on offense, really good running back play. Quarterback's playing very efficient, taking care of the football, sustaining drives, scoring points. So we're going to have to really play well in all facets of the game in order to get a win.
What strikes you about their running back? I think it's Murphy, and then their quarterback, Schrader.
Well, the running back, you can tell, has played a lot of football. He's got good instincts. He's really good with the ball in his hands. He can catch out of the backfield. He can run it. He's tough. And like I said, the experience factor, shows up when you watch him play. He just knows how to make a move, make a cut, and get yards. Quarterback really is fitting in well in what they're doing, taking care of the football, getting easy completions, finding ways to get on the outside. He's a good runner himself, so that creates problems when the quarterback is athletic and can throw and run.
Any different challenges of playing in a dome?
Well, I don't know. I know I've coached and played there years ago, but the noise is always going to be a factor. You've got to make sure that visually you can see the ball, which I don't think would be a problem, but I've heard a few things here and there. But I really just think that the noise aspect for cadences and making sure that we don't have many penalties that are costly, that shouldn't happen, but it can happen in a loud situation. So that's something we've got to work all week and make sure we're prepared for that.
Aiden and Charlie have gotten off to a good start, good chemistry there. What's the next step for those two?
Well, I think those two have proven that they can make big plays. They're a big part of the offense. Just being consistent all year is going to be the key for them, and staying healthy. I think in order for us to continue to improve, we've got to get more and more guys involved and make sure that numerous guys can step up and make plays in key situations. And, you'd love for another receiver to break through in a game and have over 100 yards receiving or something similar to that, which I think they're working hard. So we just got to continue to work through it and get guys as healthy as we can and go out there and try to help them make more plays.
Now that Sanusi's taken on a bigger role, what more do you need from him?
Well, Sanusi, like I said a couple weeks ago, really loves football. He loves to compete. He can hit you. He'll strike you. He's not afraid to tackle. I think, understanding the scheme, being in the right place at the right time, being solid in the passing game, it's going to be very important. But as far as, playing football and hitting people and having no fear, he definitely has that. And this is somebody who had off-season surgery, and that really isn't 100%, but plays his tail off, and he practices hard every day as well.
Are you starting to see one or two of your defensive linemen emerge as maybe that guy that you count on to create some pressure in the backfield?
Well, we got to continue to work through that. I think Branson Dean has the most experience. Had a pretty good game the last game, so he's got to continue to make plays for us. Jack Sullivan was able to make some plays as well. Kydron Jenkins has been a strong point to our defense. He's solid on that weak side of the defensive line, so anytime he can create some big plays will help. And then, I think Scotty Humpage probably wasn't his best game the last game, but he has shown signs he needs to emerge as a playmaker for us. And then we've got, Nick Carraway's a bright young prospect that I think that just the more he understands, the more he plays, the better he can be.
Just a couple injury updates. I know it's early, but, Brock, kind of his status as you start the week.
I think the status of those guys are about the same. So Brock is just going to be somebody that we're going to have to just manage all year and hope that he gets healthy. He did, the first game kind of, re-injure his knee a little bit, and that's what he kind of worked through. He wasn't able to really go the last game, played a few plays, had to take himself out. So hopefully that can get better this week. And, Rashawn Rice is getting healthier, and he was able to play.
Samisi,
we'll see. I won't be able to tell that till later in the week.
Jeff, I believe the very first game you coached as a head coach, very first game Dino ever coached, where you guys faced off. Do you remember that in 2014?
Yes, I do vividly.
Any recollections of maybe the game and maybe the type of coach Dino is?
Well, it actually was a good day for us. Our quarterback threw for a ton of yards, a bunch of touchdowns, and we put up a bunch of points. I think in that game their quarterback got hurt, who was a really good player, either late in the first quarter or second quarter, and it hurt their team. So the luck was on our side in that game, and it was a home game. It was just kind of one of those days for us, and got us off to a good start. But as you look at, Coach Baber's team now, he's coached a lot of football. He's been around. He understands the game. I think that he had a lot of close games last year that just didn't go his way, and they've learned from those games. You can tell by the way they've started, playing very efficient football on offense, making good decisions, taking care of the ball, sustaining drives, creating a few big plays, getting the ball in the running back's hands. Quarterback will pull it down and run it when it's not there, and doesn't throw interceptions. So that's tough to break through. So we're going to have to find ways to, hinder that and put a couple stops in there. And then I think on defense, they've always been an attacking defense. Kind of comes from the Rocky Long style of defense from San Diego State. Give you a lot of different looks, a lot of different fronts, move all over the place, and just play an aggressive downhill style. So we're going to have to, really understand what we're going against, and not, cause that to have us, have turnovers and negative plays, because that's what they've been really good at, is getting turnovers, creating negative plays, and creating havoc.
Payne Durham just has 4 catches for 50 yards. I mean, I'm sure you want to get him going, Jeff. I mean, how much has Garrett Miller's absence really impacted his ability maybe to flourish more early?
Well, I think it's a combination of things. He's actually played well. Didn't play a whole lot in the last game. He's got a big role to block for us and catch passes. We're really not utilizing the 2 tight end set as much as we had in the past. Sometimes when we do, we have an extra tackle in the game. So that's probably taken away from his ability to be successful in the passing game for us. But he'll be utilized plenty. I think we could have utilized him more last week, and then the game got to where we didn't want to cause him to get injured, and so we took him out early and wanted to get him ready for this next game, because we're going to have a long stretch of games now. They're going to be tough and physical every week, and we're going to need him healthy, and yes, he's going to have to make plays for us. But he's done a really good job. We just haven't targeted him as much.
5 wins away from home last year. Did you think that the team is set up to have more success away from West Lafayette? Because to me, it seems like you still got a pretty veteran roster.
Well, I think last year was just one of those years where, when your backs are against the wall, which a lot of times they're going to be when you play in this conference, because every week's going to be a tough matchup. You just got to find ways to win, and I think we had a couple opportunities on the road where we had to step up and find ways to get a win, and we did. So that was huge for us. We gained confidence. It helped our team move forward. We adjusted as the season went on, got a little better, I thought, throughout the year, and that was important. But I think when you just go on the road, you got to understand that you got to really be sharp. You can't beat yourselves. You've got to figure out a way to gain momentum early and take their crowd out of the game. And if you can do those things, which we were able to do against Nebraska and Iowa, you give yourself a chance. Now, if you're playing behind the 8 ball, it's going to be a long day, and that's what can happen here in the Dome. Is if they get that place rocking and they're up early, it's tough to overcome. So that's what we're going to have to figure out a way to create big plays, but also be efficient early on and keep this game close.
Can you speak just as specifically as you can to how you do personnel-wise, Jeff, replace Jalen Graham? I know he's you got different running teams, passing teams, different formations, but can you talk personnel-wise? I know Chris Jefferson's a guy, but who else is really going to see more time, you think, in his absence?
Well, that's the challenge we have right now. Jalen's a big part of the defense, done a great job for us, probably our most valuable player on that side of the ball. And you're able to kind of play a lot of different personnel sets with him in there, because he's a big athletic body that can play the run and play the pass. So right now, we don't quite have that type of body, so we've got to have a couple different ways to use that position versus teams that spread it out versus certain personnels that most likely will throw the ball, which I think
we have some okay answers for that I think will help us and get better, that we were able to use in the last game. Now when we face running sets and personnels and have to get bigger, that's where we've got to, have a good plan to, whether it's, moving Jacob Wahlberg over to the that Sam position, possibly Ben Crowell, or even Samizi if he's healthy. But right now, just getting him back healthy will probably eliminate him from that position. But, that's going to be the key is, clogging things up in the run game with a bigger body.
Was Ben Freehill, did he get hurt?
Ben
Freehill?
Yeah, Ben strained his groin, I believe, either in the first game towards the end or maybe even in practice, and that caused him to not be able to go this past week.
Should we all still be excited about Devin Mockabee? You think he's got a role moving forward?
I think so. Devin has shown this to us more than just his past game. He had a really good fall camp. He made some really good runs. He's got some elusiveness to him. He's got some speed. He's got just some natural ability to make guys miss. Sometimes when you haven't seen the game yet, you don't know for sure if it's going to carry over against real live opponents. And then, of course, as our schedule continues to get tougher and tougher, starting this week with a very tough opponent, we'll see how his talent stacks up. But he will definitely be in the mix and will be in the rotation. Will play football for us.
Yeah, Jeff, obviously you talked a little bit already about Charlie Jones' his first couple games, and I guess some of the other guys that are going to need to step up aside from him in the passing game. But as teams, I guess, continue to kind of key in on him maybe moving forward, what kind of things are you hoping are going to open up here for your offense?
Well, I think the ability to throw the football to Payne Durham has always beneficial to work in between the hashes. So we got to make sure we utilize that. You'd love for Tyrone Tracy, TJ Sheffield to emerge as playmakers for you and be consistent, and where you can utilize those guys. Rashawn Rice, when he's healthy, can do a good job. We feel like, but he's got to be healthy and be able to go full speed. That's kind of been the key with him. Sometimes when he's not healthy, we need him to go full speed. Deion Burks has some speed that we've got to figure out ways to get him the ball as well. And then there's some others that are right, on the cusp of going in also. But, if Brock is fully healthy, that would help.
Tyrone Tracy obviously he got some touches early against Indiana State due to just the game script in general. What are the challenges, I guess, in balancing his opportunities in terms of design plays and just having it on the field for different things in the passing game, route tree, things like that?
Well, I think with Tyrone, the key is getting him so many touches a game, and whether that's at receiver, at the running back position, I think he's a unique type of player that has talent at both, and his strength is not necessarily just running vertical routes and getting open, even though he does a very good job. His strength is let's get the ball in his hand and let him go make some plays, because he will run hard. He's got some elusiveness to him as well when the ball's in his hands. He's got some strength to him. So we just want to make sure we can utilize him all over the field and find ways to get it in his hands quick. And if we got to throw it to him deep, that's fine. But I just think making sure he gets his touches is going to be important.
Obviously, a short day for King Drew this past week. He gets into the end zone for the third time in the red zone. And then you get an extended look at Dylan Downing and Kobe Lewis behind him. Where do King and Dylan need to continue to move forward in this rushing attack, and how can Kobe Lewis continue to maybe find a role and provide some more depth at that position?
I think King has been consistent. He had a little calf injury this past week that we had to kind of nurse through, but he did a good job. Didn't get a whole lot of reps after the first couple of series. Dylan Dowling definitely has done a really good job for us. He's improved a great deal from last year. We feel like he has a great grasp of our offense. Has lost weight. He's gained speed. He runs hard. He's got good hands, and he just kind of understands what we're doing. Kobe Lewis will continue to improve. He's got good ability. It just hasn't been in the system very long, so there's some things that just don't he has some indecisiveness at times just because he hasn't been here very long, but he'll work through that. So I feel like we've improved at that position, and we're going to need to utilize all 3, 4, or 5 of those guys that I mentioned throughout the year, and that's going to be important. So it's good that we have capable running backs that we are feeling more comfortable with every week.
When you took Charlie this summer, did you know he could be this kind of wide receiver for you, and if so, how? Because obviously there wasn't a whole lot of tape in terms of him being used the way that you were going to use him.
Well, fortunately for us, when we found out that Charlie was leaving Iowa, his biggest advocate was Aiden O'Connell. So trusting what Aiden knew about Charlie was the best information we had, and Aiden came through on what he said, because there wasn't it wasn't like we were extremely smart and knowledgeable on the situation. We had watched some quick video of Charlie and his punt returns. He was really good on special teams, but there wasn't a whole lot of video of him at receiver, but a few catches here and there. But Aiden has a history with him. I guess maybe had trained with him before and grew up around him and just kind of knew him very well. So we trusted, Aiden's past history with him, and really didn't get him here till late. So it's not like we got a great look at him in spring. Really didn't get him here till late in the summer, and he's come in and done a really good job.
Jeff Brohm talked glowingly about Syracuse head coach Dino Babers. Well, Babers had something to say about Purdue quarterback Aiden O'Connell, a big-time quarterback, Babers said. Last time I saw someone that accurate, he got drafted by the Patriots, and I'm not blowing that up. We're going to assume that he was referring to Mac Jones out of Alabama, not, of course, former Michigan man Tom Brady. As good as Purdue was last week, Minnesota has had 2 of those non-conference performances in a row. Now, to be fair, both of the Gophers teams that they faced, their opposition was nowhere near Minnesota from a talent perspective, but still, P.J. Fleck has to be thrilled. Great returns on the return of Kirk Shiraka along with Tanner Morgan, who had a terrific performance against Western Illinois. And Mo Ibrahim has now been over 100 yards in back-to-back games, looks healthy, looks like the guy who we saw a couple of years ago, of course, before being injured in Game 1 and lost for the season a year ago. 62-10 was the final score for the Gophers over Western Illinois. That following a 38-0 win to start the year for P.J. Fleck and company. It's a Power 5 opponent this week against Colorado, but it is a struggling Buffalo team. Still, Fleck and the Gophers will take nothing for granted. For more, let's head to the Twin Cities. Here is Minnesota headman P.J. Fleck.
I'll answer your first question first. We're scheduling 10 years out, 15 years out, 20 years out already. We're still playing in games that we didn't necessarily as a staff schedule. Our administration takes care of all that. Administrations prior to that take care of that, just like we're scheduling out 10, 15, 20 years from now. So I think you always want to think that way. Some of the best brands in college football, we'd love to be able to have here, come to Huntington Bank and also go to those places. But those are for decisions as we keep moving forward and seeing what slots are open and what years are open, but definitely open to that, to answer your first question. The second question with the nine-game conference schedule, those are for decisions outside of me. They really are. I mean, the day-to-day operations for us is doing everything we can to be 1-0 against Colorado. I know it's kind of a generic answer, but I do think as the college football format changes, change is inevitable, as I've said since I've been here. And look how much 5 years from ago, college football's changed from when we first got here. Not because of us, I'm saying just in general. It'll continue to change that way. Whatever's good for the student athlete, I'm all about. But I think when you start looking at conference realignments, you're starting to look at people joining Power 5 conferences. You're starting to look at the NIL. You're starting to look at all the TV deals. I mean, change is inevitable. How that'll shake out, I think there's a million different possibilities, and I think it's all just kind of, future talks right now. It's all just speculation. I just don't know if there's enough data yet. Now, with the college football playoff expanding, I think that'll bring a lot of, answers to your questions. I just don't know really what that will look like. Just speculation.
Did you ever think about Mo and in terms of the Heisman Trophy, or do you just take it, doing the right thing for him on a game-by-game basis?
Yeah, it's just game-by-game basis. I think that's the hardest part of just playing sports in general, and I say it all the time, is keeping the internal message way louder than the external message. There's a lot of people who get paid and have their job to talk about the external message and to be able to have and create stories and to create anticipation, create things that are down the road. But for us, our focus is just on each other and getting better every single day. And it's fun when you have a team that feels the same way. You don't have to worry about somebody, reading something or thinking about something externally. I'm not saying you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about it as much because we always worry about it. But I do think we have really talented, skilled players that, the more success a team has, the more individual success they will have. And I think they do understand that. And they've been through a lot. So I think that's what our focus is. 1-0 against Colorado and keep it on that.
Mike Sanford and Clay Patterson coming back into town this weekend. What are the challenges of having two guys come back and play against them when they know your personnel so well?
Yeah, Coach Chance as well. Mike, Clay, Rod, done a lot for our program. Have a lot of respect for all three of those men. You stay in this profession long enough, you're always going to play against people that either worked with you, played with you in college, were on the same staff somewhere, some way. Every game's its own entity. Every year is its own entity. And they have a different personnel. They have different personnel they had last year. We have different personnel than we had last year. We have different schematics that we had last year. They have different schematics I had last year. So again, it's a one-game championship season. But if you stay in the profession long enough, you're going to run into games like that. But nothing but respect for those individuals that were with us at one point and moved on.
PJ, I keep thinking about how much faster your defense plays now versus 3 or 4 years ago. That component, how much of a priority was that when you went out to recruiting or just how you wanted your defense to play?
Yeah, I mean, you've got to in this league, you got to play incredible defense, I think, to win. I think that as you kind of looked at the college football landscape, I think change is inevitable. You have to be willing to change, and I think you have to be able to be a complete team to win and win at a really high level. I'm not saying you got to just outscore people. And offense is more important than defense, or you just have to stop people because you still have to score points if you're going to stop people. But I do think that the importance of having complementary offense and defense and special teams is more important now than it's ever been. And I think that's one thing that we looked at as a staff and saying, how can we build something here that's complementary, where our offense is going to complement the style of defense we play. The style of defense will complement the style of offense we play. And then the special teams, how we play special teams, will be able to bridge the gap of those two and connect those two. So that's what the whole mission was at the beginning, was finding a way to play complementary football, which, again, that's a whole different study for you, Daniel. At one point, is just what does complementary football actually look like? Because we take a lot of pride in that. And I think that's one thing that over the last 10 years, when you look back at times we've had success, we've been very complementary. And that's another conversation down the road of what that word actually means within our walls. But I think that was the mission. And I think Coach Rossi's done a really good job of building our defense schematically, doing what our players can do. And every year we've been in it, we've been able to do a little bit more. And more doesn't mean just more stuff. It might even mean less, but being able to do more within the game. And I think that's a credit to him and what he's been able to do.
PJ, go
as well as our players. I mean, they're the ones that have to go out and execute it, But you look at our personnel, and I'm sorry to go on a tangent, but I just thought of this too, Chip, is when you come to practice and you get a chance to watch us, we were in, the game at the end of the last few plays of the game. When you look at that defensive line, those are all freshmen. And you look at them and you're like, hey, they actually physically might look bigger and better than what we have that are older. That's what we're working towards. And it's harder and harder with NIL and transfer portal. I get all that. But hopefully we're creating an experience enough where people really want to be here, want to stay, and they get enough NIL opportunities when they're here to be able to keep creating that as we keep moving forward. And we know we're going to have to change and adapt and do all those things. But when you look at that, I mean, there was Devin Eastern out there, and you look at Anthony Smith that was out there, and you look at Hayden Schwartz, and you start looking at these guys, with Logan Richter in there. I mean, that was a good-looking D-line that's going to be around a long time. And when you look down, because a head coach, we're always looking down the road. Even with the NIL, transfer portal, and all that, you're always looking down the road with your roster management. So, yes, that has been, to answer your question very simply, yes. I mean, you look at all that when you're building a team.
Going back to Saturday after the Mike Brown-Stevens fumble, what is kind of the process with you and Chiraka to kind of go right back to the passing game like you did?
Yeah, I mean, you got to be able to, Michael Brown-Stevens or anybody, they built up a lot of trust, right? And things are going to happen. It's football, right? Look at the National Football League yesterday. Look at college football 2 days ago. Things happen. But it's, again, it's the old cliche. It's not what happens to you, but this whole program, this hyperculture is built on the last R, and that's response. And I would say maybe 2 years ago, he doesn't respond that way and come back with 22 yards of yak on the next play when he catches the ball, breaks 4 tackles, protects the football, and then has a big game for us. That's him overcoming all the challenges he's had, him making himself a really good football player, him embracing the coaching, embracing the culture, understanding that life's really about the response, not what happens to you, what happens within you. And he's grown tremendously as a person on the field and off the field. And that's what you see, right? When you're a better person, you're gonna ultimately become a better player, right? And I think that's a perfect example of Michael Brown-Stevens. He's become a better person, and you saw that response in how he played with that one play. And people just look at it, it's just one play. But it's not just one play. That one play, the ability to respond like that under the pressure of the situation after something that, happens, with the culture being the ball as a program, to respond the way he did takes a while for that to happen. And I'm really proud of him for doing that. And that just shows the growth that we have. And it shows the trust Coach Chiraka has in him. You saw Lemeki Brockett make a huge catch for us. And, there was discussion about him in that particular play, during the week. And Kirk was adamant about it that, listen, under the pressure of the situation, I have to see what this young man can do. We got to answer questions with a lot of these skilled players and these playmakers. And for him, Kirk wasn't here 2 years. This is his first year back. I mean, we might know what some guys can do, but Kirk's still even learning that. Watching our players, 2.5, almost 3 years ago, perform now. So Lemeki Brockett's a great example of that. Put him in the pressure of the situation. Can he make the play? And he did a great job of that.
Yeah, that complementary football, we're talking about running the ball is certainly part of that equation. Do you think it's always important to have a player like Mo who's sort of that, game-breaking type back, or is it simply important to be able to run the ball well regardless of if you are in a committee type situation in some seasons?
Well, obviously you'd always like to have a bunch of Mo's, more Mo's, just Mo's, just keep bringing them, right? But he's special. But when you look back, when you have a back like that, think back to last year. We didn't have him, we didn't have Trey, you didn't have Bryce, and you're pulling Derek LeCaptain off the defense and bringing him on offense, and then you have freshmen, and you're still able to win 9 games. You're still able to win conference games, still able to win at a high level. You don't trade that complementary style for that. There's going to be years that you can stay healthy. There's going to be years that you don't stay healthy. But that doesn't change your entire schematics. It doesn't change your philosophy. You just have to get from point A to point B a little differently, right? And that might have to be running the football more creatively. You might have to find unique ways to run the football. You might have to, not just your personnel, but you might have to throw the football more. But that goes back to the balance part of that, not just running the football, what makes us us. We'd love to be able to control the ball, 44 minutes and 40 minutes. That fits our style. But if we're not scoring points in doing that, then it turns into a game that everybody looks on paper like, well, you're supposed to win, but you didn't. So all 3 phases have to work in sync. But would we always like to have a player like Mo? Absolutely. That's the goal in recruiting, is continue to bring in players like that, that have unique styles, that can break tackles. The X's and O's is one thing, but it's always about the Jimmies and the Joes. We can put on the board an X and an O, and it looks great on paper. But then you've got to go execute it, and those people get scholarships, and those coaches get paid too, and those players are good too. And then you got to have playmakers. And, we're better when we have playmakers.
The reaction of everyone when Preston Jones scored for the first time since his injury. What did that moment mean to you and the entire program?
So it's such an important person on this football team, not just a player. He's overcome a lot with his surgeries. He's an unbelievable person. I tell him all the time, I said, listen, by the time you become an orthopedic surgeon, I'm going to need my shoulders and knees replaced. I said, put me down for 4 surgeries, because he's so smart, so intelligent, but he's such a selfless player. He's willing to do whatever it takes. And there's a lot of things you don't know that I know, that he's incredibly selfless to do whatever it takes for this football team to be successful. And to watch him take that ball, run the way he did, he knows that we could get to him. And he's a quad team special teamer. The team absolutely loves him. And you talk about, he's one of those guys that are a tremendous person. He's going to have way more success in his life beyond football than he does in football. But he loves being on a team, loves being around the guys, loves the culture. He's everything you want, in a person on this football team. And he sets the tone and example for a lot of people how to work and how to overcome adversity, because he's had a lot of it. He's a special human being. He's got a very, very bright future.
You talk about blocking out the external noise a lot, but when you look at what happened in your sport this weekend, goodness gracious, your players are watching that. Do you talk to them about it?
We do. Actually, yesterday in our team meeting, we started about all the things we didn't do culturally in the game. We showed all the things that, the ball is the program and reaching the ball out when we're not supposed to reach the ball out. All these things, we went back and said, okay, we won a football game. That's great. We celebrated, patted each other on the back, literally celebrated. Celebrated in the locker room on Saturday. But now it's time to put our leather vests on and watch how we can grow. So we watch all the things culturally that, with all due respect, we play somebody better, we're not going to get away with those things. Not only that, we went back to the Alabama-Texas game and watched certain clips about what made that game so close. We watched the Texas A&M Appy State game, not all of it, but certain clips that I wanted to make a point of. We pulled things, about 4 or 5 different games, because there's 2 ways of learning in the world. There's the easy way and the hard way. And the easy way is learning from other people's mistakes. The hard way is learning from your own mistakes. And we all have those. We've all learned the easy way. We've all learned the hard way. One of the jobs as a head football coach is to make sure your team learns as much as they can the easy way. And that's by constant education, proactive education. That's how you do everything you can to protect your football team. Protecting is not doing something reactive after it happens. It's doing everything you can proactively to fight human nature. That is what this job is about. It's about thinking. It's a job of thinking and thought. It's a job of being very proactive and looking around every single corner. And it's a job of fighting human nature. That is the job, in my opinion, of a head coach, one of them. And so I don't think they can block it out because it's constant around them. It's on their phone. It's around all of you. It's based on your questions. You all have a job to do. We respect that wholeheartedly. They can hear it, because I'm never going to say, take your phone away, put your phone in a box for a year, because it's a tool of communication that young people use, and I get all that. So you're going to hear it. That's fine. But when you hear it, do you not listen to it? Because when you listen to it, it then becomes your own way of thinking. So can we culturally have a strong enough culture, the way we connect people, to take it from the external, bring it inside, process it, get it back to what we want to be able to think, and then spit it back to the outside? I mean, that's really what we're doing the best we possibly can, and showing them examples of what that looks like. But this team's very mature. They know what they have to do. They know what they can do, and they want to do it. And I've said that all along. I've said that since January. I've told this is nothing new, I don't think, of what type of team this is. Now, how many wins they have, we're going to find out in the next 10 weeks. But I love coaching the team, because when you show them something, they respond, right? And they get it. It reminds me of coaching Vincent Jackson in the National Football League. And unfortunately, he's passed now. But I remember it was the first time I ever coached a player. When I showed him something, he just did it. And he did it with wow, that looked really easy. I just showed you something very difficult, and your athletic ability did something so graceful and so perfect. It's yeah, do that, right? But so many people just coaching, do that. Well, that's not how we coach, right? He took it and ran with it. There were people that needed to watch it 100 times. We have the same type of scale, but this team reminds me of that. You can show them, explain it, teach it, and they got it, and they don't have to be, beat over the head with it. You can show it to them in a very mature way. And I told them that yesterday. I said, I don't want this to be this is not a negative meeting. You guys won. That's great. But we already celebrated that in the locker room. Now let's watch what would and could have happened if things didn't go, if we maybe played somebody different, that things are going to get exposed, and there were some cultural things we needed to get clear. And they were all ears, which I appreciate as a head coach.
One or two more for Coach. Dave, go ahead.
That was a long answer. Sorry about that, everybody. But good question, Chip.
TJ, talking about looking around the corner, you've had so many kickoffs for touchbacks, which is great. But down the road, maybe you get into a close game and you're kicking into the wind and it's short. You got to cover the kicks. What do you do when you're not getting that much reps or practice in a game and covering the kicks as far as your kickoff team? How do you approach that?
Yeah, it's fighting human nature. Again, it comes back to those words because he's very talented. I mean, he kicked one off his toe and he mishit it badly and he kicked it to the 6-yard line. I mean, I would have prayed for the 6-yard line a few years ago. And but what we have to do is make sure that every kick we feel like they're going to bring it out. And it could be 7 in a row, 8 in a row, 9 in a row. It could be 10 in a row. But we have to cover every kick because it's going to be – the weather's going to come in to the Big Ten, and there's going to be wind in our face. There's going to be all those things. But we have to be better in that. And they did bring one out. And, again, we didn't cover it as well as we should have covered. And that was one of the things we showed them in the team meeting. We're going to play a better kick return unit, respectively, and we're going to get exposed if we cover like that. So, again, it doesn't matter whether you win or lose. What's on the film's on the film. Whatever the result was, the result. We already celebrated that, right? Or we already, we were sad about that. I get that. Whatever it is, win or loss. But then when you come out Sunday, it's all about learning. It's all about changing your bets. It's all about absorbing that information in a mature way. And that's what I mean about this team being fun, because they do that. They're willing to do that and not take it personal.
Where is everyone else?
As those 3 Idaho defenders learned, A.J. Barner is a big, strong man. Hoosiers needed that touchdown catch, perhaps closer than expected against Idaho, but at the end of the day, for a second consecutive week, Indiana got the job done. And so the Hoosiers are exactly where Tom Allen wanted them to be through 2 weeks at 2-0. Next couple of weeks could be tough and very telling for Indiana because the Hoosiers go out of conference and have a really important game against Western Kentucky. Of course, they also have the return matchup against Cincinnati still to come. So all those are important. But for now, they're undefeated, and Tom Allen has plenty to build on. Let's head to Bloomington now and listen in to the head Hoosiers weekly press conference.
Good afternoon. Just want to start by just saying we're very thankful to be 2-0 and proud of our guys for responding in the second half. Go through the players of the game. As we always go through and talk about those guys, scout team players that give us such a great effort each week, defensive scout players of the game, Caden Turner, offensive scout team player of the week, Ricky Tamas, special team scout of the week, Mitchell Evans, offensive player of the game, Sean Shivers, defensive player of the game, Desan McCullough, and special teams players, both James Evans and Anderson Kobe. Just once again, just think Coach Ack's doing a great job there, and told him that after the game. And just want to make sure that our guys understand where we're at, what we got to do. So pretty clear about that after the game. So bottom line is that we're excited about this opportunity coming up here at Western Kentucky, coming to Bloomington. Tyson Helton's done a great job there, #1 offense in the nation last year, won their bowl game in a dominant way, and play really aggressive on defense, got a lot of athletes, do a tremendous job, got a really talented quarterback, transferred in that's won a national championship in his pedigree, and a lot of talented receivers and running backs, and a good offensive line, really good group up front, without question, very well coached defensively, causes a lot of takeaways, a lot of disruption. And so really excited about having a noon kickoff. We've had 2 late night games that makes for a long day for our guys. I know our guys are excited about that as well. Excited to be able to be back home again for a third time in a row. So appreciate those that withstood the weather to cheer us on and support us. Much appreciated. Need a big crowd on Saturday to be able to help our guys play a really good football team. Got to play our best. Got to be able to put together our best effort for 4 quarters from start to finish. Questions?
I guess, Tom, I feel like we asked this, immediately after the game. But when you do get a game where maybe you feel like, your team's intensity wasn't where it needed to be, focus wasn't where it needed to be, but you also get the result ultimately in the end. Like, what as a coach do you want to see in the next 72, 96 hours in terms of whether it's closing the book on that game, whether it's responding to something specifically? Like what do you want to see from a team, whoever the next opponent is, in terms of maybe self-correcting some of that?
Yeah, I think what you want to see is tremendous focus. Wasn't an effort issue, but tremendous focus. I thought I saw that today during our walkthrough and our lifts and meetings, just understanding the situation as far as just how we kind of recapped it to our team and emphasize the things that we did well, emphasize the things that we need to correct, and then come back on Tuesday and have a really, really physical, high energy, highly focused practice, and then do it again on Wednesday. And to me, that's the way you want your team to respond, because those opportunities are great chances to learn. Yes, fortunate to be able to learn after a win, which was doesn't always happen. And I think that's where your player-led piece comes in. You know, the leadership of this group, challenging those guys and being able to pull those guys aside, and so. But I do think that you know, that was. I believe they're going to respond the correct way, you know, and so excited for us to be able to keep getting better, and that's the key. So, but that's what you want to see. You want to see it's a daily thing. It can't just be, you know, you show up and there's no magic switch that you turn on. No, it's the switch has had to be on today, and it's on again tomorrow, and it's continuous, and to allow our guys to prepare at a level for us to play our best football from start to finish.
Tom, as far as just sort of maintaining that focus, does it make a difference that you're playing a Western Kentucky team that gave you trouble last year? And what's the same and what's different about them? Obviously, they changed coordinators.
Yeah, I think there's no question. I mean, your point is well stated, and that's obviously my emphasis as well. I mean, our guys understand fully who they're playing, and last year was a dogfight down there at their place, and we were fortunate to come out with a win. And so the system has stayed the same. Head coach is now running the offense, and so don't expect to see a lot of different things schematically. You know, they got some different personnel, got a new quarterback, very, very talented player. Kind of found a very similar guy, you know, in terms of the way he's able to run that offense and just playmakers everywhere. And they're going to play, you know, with a certain level of tempo and the way they're going to stretch you, you know, laterally, vertically, all the different things that their system does. And so, yeah, they gave a lot of people. We went through and go through and try to find different games, you know, that from the past season, and really nobody really slowed them down, you know. So they had a lot of points and a lot of yards in every single game, which is the reason why they're number one offense in the nation. So in about every category. But so I just think you're going to see a very similar style. They've done some things a little bit differently, maybe in the run game this year, but at the same time, you know, they have their system, they believe in it, and they're going to play it to a high level. So it's impressive to watch. There's no doubt. Coach Helton's done a tremendous job.
Coach, I wanted to ask about Aaron Casey. I know he was obviously selected to honor George Taliaferro this season. I guess simply, like, what did he do? What does he do that made you feel like he was the right guy to have that honor?
You know, I think that it's his character, you know, on and off the field. I just think he's the kind of person that has a sense of, knows who he is, knows what he believes, stays true to that, is consistent in what he brings every single day, is a great teammate. You know, whatever role he's given, whatever he's been asked to do since he's been here, he does it with tremendous effort, toughness, and he is a mentally and physically tough guy. That showed up in the game on Saturday night, and just, you know, want to make sure that you know, we give it to a young man that just embodies that spirit that George had, and just what he brought to this campus when he came here, and just a guy that's a tough fighter that just believes in his heart in certain things and isn't going to be strayed by that, you know. So just really appreciate, you know, Aaron Casey and everything that he's done for our program, and I'm excited for him to be able to. He's playing his best football and has done a great job for us and stayed true here and has continued to battle and didn't have his best season a year ago and responded by that by having a great offseason. So I just felt like that he embodies all those persevering qualities that made George Taliaferro so special.
Coach, Saturday was the first game in a while without Matt Bedford on the offensive line. Just how do you think the group as a whole responded to that loss, and also specifically Parker in his first game?
Yeah, I thought they responded well. We ran the football a lot better than we needed to, and felt like that. As we always say with that group, there's a chemistry involved. So not having Matt we knew was going to be challenging and create some issues that we have to learn to work through. But I thought they played well together, ran the ball well, gave our quarterback time to throw, and did a good job. I thought Parker did a nice job. They had some defensive ends that we were concerned about athletically that could create some issues, and did so the week before as well. And their just ability to disrupt was what we were concerned about. So I thought the guys did a good job covering them up and creating some creases for our running backs to run through. And we ran for 239 yards and 6.6 yards a carry, which is really important, for us to be able to do that. And so that starts up front, and they get obviously all the criticism when it doesn't happen, and they should be given the praise when it does. So, but they got to keep working hard together. Going to face bigger, more athletic groups as we go through these next several weeks, and so they got to continue to gel and mesh and work together. And Parker, to me, is a smart, tough, dependable guy. So I expect him to just keep getting better.
Coach, I wanted to ask you real quick back here. Sorry. I wanted to ask you real quick about DJ Matthews, obviously coming back off that ACL tear last year against Western, and being able to just be the person he is as well as the player he's been so far for you guys this season. I know he's also been a father off the field, balancing that, being a student. What can you tell me about him?
Yeah, he's a special young man, and he and I have spent a lot of time together and just trying to help him grow as a man. And I got so much respect for him. He does have a lot going on. And just the way he's battled through all that, the ups and downs of that, the recovery, a long, very difficult recovery that injury entails. And then as a speed guy, you rely on his quickness and his ability to get in and out of breaks to make him special. And so that's obviously a big part of that type of injury, coming back from that. So, and I thought in the game on Saturday night, he was, obviously made some visible plays, but just his leadership and just his desire to, step up and get this thing going, when we needed him to, and make those big plays. And the catch he had on that sideline there was pretty impressive. And then he followed out with a one-handed catch after that, So, but that's what has to happen. Guys like that, your best players got to step up when the team needs someone to make a play. He was the guy that rose to that occasion, So I just have so much respect for what he's been through, the way he stayed the course. There's a grit piece to him. There's a toughness to him, even though he's not big in stature, that makes him who he is. And I think that's there's the obvious skill set, talents that he has that are pretty unique, and his ball skills and his just understanding spacing and being able to kind of maneuver around defenders and catch balls the way he does is impressive. But I love his heart. I love his his passion for what he does, and it's his family and what he's been called to do. And so to me, it's just trying to help him continue to grow, because things are never easy and throughout life, and just trying to help him maneuver through that and guide and direct him. And he's one of those that wants that, and he's been great for me to be able to spend a lot of time with, because he's really appreciative of that and wants it, and so I just I love who he is as a man, and obviously he's a gifted player that we need to continue to step up and keep leading this football team.
Coach, a few familiar faces on the Western Kentucky roster this year, specifically Davion Irwin Poindexter at running back. What are you expecting to see from him, and just kind of that rushing attack as a whole? Yeah, so Davion, really so proud of him. We really, when he was here for us as a walk-on and just worked so hard and had to play last year, and just tried to help him find an opportunity to go and get a scholarship, and so he's able to do that. I just really appreciate his work ethic, his perseverance, he's got some of the same qualities I was talking about with DJ, and just worked his way. He was a really good high school player and developed himself into a really good college player. So he's made some really nice runs. He's one of their leading playmakers on offense, and that's exciting for him. And they've got several running backs they play with. Like I said, they've got an expanded run game that they really didn't have as much last year schematically, that they're now utilizing. So that makes them more things to
stop and to scheme against. So, but yeah, they got 3 players that they rotate in there. They play them all pretty equally, and they're all able to catch and run and block and do the things they need to do. So, really proud of him. And yeah, now we got to go find a way to stop him.
You talked about the offensive line, but specifically, I'd seen Luke Haggard is grading really highly in terms of pass blocking, like nationally. I guess, what have you seen from him so far, and how important is, when you have other spots in the offensive line in flux, how important is it to have a veteran presence like that?
Yeah, I mean, I just think that, every position, leadership matters. Veteran leadership is even more valuable, and I just think that that's what he brings, and it's the consistency and the toughness and just the steadiness there. And even though may not be a real verbal person, but just the play speaks for itself in so many ways, and at that position for sure, and that consistency, and just the strength and the size and the length and all the different things you have. But to me, I just think that we talk so much about the culture of our program and just the culture in each room, and that's a big, we use the phrase 11 strong. You got the 10 positions on offense, 10 on defense, and then specialists are the 11th group. And so everybody has to understand that culture is the responsibility of each position coach, and that each position coach within that group has to develop those leaders. We have leaders from each group that's on our leadership council by design, and we talk to those guys by those groups by design to be able to get that, to take it back to the group, and be able to infuse, the leadership within those guys, and then affect the whole side of the football and ultimately the whole team. So just trying to get that, and I think it's critical. And the more older guys you got that are strong in their daily habits and work ethic that they bring every day, and guys are consistent in that, really creates, hey, that's the standard. So when the young guys come in here, they just get pulled into it, and because they understand that, hey, that's how it's going to be expected for me to practice here. I'm going to lift here, I'm going to run here, I'm going to train here, and I'm going to study film. So he does a great job with that.
Tom, evaluate the defensive side of the ball after 2 ball games at this point, and did you cut back on the missed tackles on Saturday? Were you more pleased with that aspect of it? And then I know you were not pleased with a couple of late scores in the ball game and some things that happened there, but just an evaluation there.
Yeah, that kind of really soured my perspective on how we played, to be honest with you, especially the last one. But we definitely cut down the tackles, missed tackles. Okay, there were much fewer of those, which is great. Thought we played really hard. I mean, we were trying to find guys that weren't bursting to the ball in every way. So, but what we did, though, we had some execution mistakes, that I thought was lack of focus, and that to me was like not acceptable. And a couple of them were older guys. Matter of fact, we gave up 2 touchdowns that were just blown assignments, and we can't do that. So that was frustrating to me. And but that goes back to the mental side of it. It wasn't a physical mistake. It was just more not getting your eyes in the right spot, not executing, and your eyes just not being locked in. So, but I think we still got to work hard on our run fits. We did better, but here's the thing for us. We don't do things. We're not a traditional, run fit type system. So we do things maybe a little unique in some ways. And so the new guys that are with us now, I think they're still getting better at that and still getting and understanding how we do that and how that's supposed to fit up. And so if one guy doesn't do it the correct way, it kind of goes from where you can really kind of smother them to get some leakage there. And we've had some of that leakage that we got to keep working on. We worked on it again this morning. So I think that it was some progress with that, but also not quite there yet. And every week we got to keep getting better. So, we talk about takeaways, tackling, and effort. Well, the effort was phenomenal. Okay, it was the takeaways didn't come, and that's a big negative. We had one that we lost because of the penalty, which would have been a huge one, but didn't get the takeaways. But I just didn't think we had that same edge about us mentally to allow us to be a step ahead of some things, And so that's where we got to be that way, and that's where I was disappointed in that, and told the guys that, and we pointed them out. Matter of fact, we showed clips. This is what we got to be able to address and fix and clean up, and then we went out and did it on the field today to correct some of those things, the mistakes that we made, and don't expect those to happen again. So, but progress without question. Just don't like giving up those last 2 touches. I mean, to me, we should have shut them out in the second half. So that was my whole goal coming out at halftime, and that's why I wasn't happy. Still not.
Hey, Tailgate's going to come hang with Tommy this weekend. All Big Ten, all morning, previews of every matchup, tons of fun directly from Bloomington. Big Ten Tailgate presented by Tom, Saturday, 10 a.m. Eastern, only on Big Ten Network and the Fox Sports app. Like Indiana at 2-0, Rutgers is off to a great start at 2-0. Huge Week 1 win on the road against Boston College, and no letdown against an overmatched Wagner squad at home in Week 2. 66-7 the final. Most points any Rutgers team has scored in a game since all the way back in 1993. Greg Schiano has to be happy about that and has to be happy about that 2-0 start. Now it's Temple, final non-conference game of the year. And strange, of course, that Rutgers is playing 2 non-conference games on the road. This, the second and final, and then conference play begins next week on the Banks against Iowa. More from the Rutgers head man as we take you to Piscataway and listen in to Greg Schiano.
Hey, guys, good to see you. Thanks for coming out. Why don't we just start, try to answer any questions you have.
You played Temple last year with a new coach. Can you tell us a little bit about this team this year that you'll be facing?
Yeah. You know, I look at Temple, you can see I've known Stan for a long time, Coach Drayton. He's an excellent football coach. He's been at the highest level, National Football League, national championships. Stan knows how to prepare a team. You can see that they're getting better. You can see that there's an identity to their team, what they're going to be, what he wants them to be. So, you know, and I know, as always, a lot of guys on that Temple team that would have liked to come to Rutgers, right? So when you play a team that has a chip on their shoulder, it's a challenge. So when you go back and watch that game last year, you say, well, the score was what it was. I mean, that score was not indicative of what that game was. That score was based on takeaways. We struggled to move the football against their defense, and I think their defense is playing well again. So, yeah, it's something that, you know, we're getting ready for. They do some things that are a little bit different, so that's challenging. And then obviously in the special teams realm, Coach Shire knows intimately what we do, and so we got to make sure that we, you know, button it all up, and make sure that there's nothing that he can take advantage of from his knowledge of what we do.
So what have you seen from Gavin in terms of the way he's kind of navigating the ups and downs of this early part of his development and, you know, processing mistakes, learning from them and things like that?
I think you know, there's no doubt both he and Evan are both getting better in leaps and bounds, right? And how can you not when you go through that process and you play in live games? You wish he could have that interception back. It was similar to the one at BC. That's what he and I talked about is, no, there's enough mistakes out there to make new ones every week. We don't want to make the same ones. But then again, you know, you look at what he does on that one touchdown throw. I mean, that was a laser beam, right? And then when he runs the football, he's a threat. Every time that ball is snapped and it's in his hands, he's a threat. You better defend him. You better have a guy accounted for him, because if you don't, he has the ability to take it a long way. So I see him getting better. Again, I don't want to rush the process, though. I think they're both playing well. We just got to let them keep playing, and eventually this thing will work itself out. It's just not now.
Greg Rashad Rochelle got some snaps at running back. He's listed as a wide receiver. Is it fair to see him in a kind of an Aaron Cruikshank role of an offensive weapon that could just do a bunch of different things with the ball in his hand?
I think that's a very good assessment of who he is. He's a very good athlete and is dangerous with the ball in his hands. So we've been working him at both positions. With AY down, we kind of more heavily favor him towards running back. But I think he's going to be a really good receiver too, as he grows and, you know, spends more time with JB in the weight room and all those things. He's already changed his body a little bit, but I can see this guy being just a little muscle man, you know, out there. It can really run. And that's going to be the key, because he's going to get hit, right? And so we're working to get that done.
Understand you don't want to dive too much into Noah's injury, but is there a game or at least a timeline for when you would be expecting him to get back on the practice field or game situation?
No, not really. You know, he is progressing, so he's doing more things this week than he did last week. I think it's all going to be, okay, so how does this go this week? If this goes well, then he keeps progressing onward. It's too early still to tell Can he play this week? I don't know. It's all going to depend on how, Tuesday and Wednesday, how fast he progresses. But, we're just playing it by ear. But I don't have like a landmark, this game is when I expect him. No.
Greg, you started the same 5 offensive linemen again this past week. Is it safe to say that those guys are your top 5? And then kind of piggybacking off of that a little bit, we also saw quite a bit of a youth movement this past weekend. How's the unit as a whole developing?
Well, I think when you talk about 5, you got to include Mike Schifani in there, so make it 6. Okay, we have 6. In our opinion as a staff, we have 6 starting linemen. We just, could it be the other way around? Sure, it could. It's just, it's very close. But they all play a great deal inside. We have a kind of a 3-man rotation going there. So I like that. I'd like to see where we get a rotation going at tackle. We're not quite there yet. I think C.J. Hansen's coming on. I think Kamar Missouri's coming on. So if those guys keep coming, now we can get into a little more rotation at the tackle spot too. But that's kind of just like at quarterback, at tackle, at guard. I'd like to do it some at center. I'd like to keep playing more and more people. Just philosophically, I think that's what college football is becoming. You have to make sure that everybody gets to play. I think they prepare better that way. So we're going to make every attempt to do that, but not at the cost of winning a game. So that's going to be always the ultimate, level.
I know you're focused on Temple now, but to look a little bit ahead, the Big Ten just announced the Iowa game. Big Ten opener is going to be a night game. It's going to be your first night game here with fans in the stands since you came back. What do you anticipate that, and what is your kind of general thoughts on night games here at home?
I think your first part was exactly where I am totally focused on one thing, and that's a 2:00 kick at Lincoln Financial Field. God willing, I'm still around. Then we'll talk about that next week. But I am really excited about 2:00 at Lincoln Financial Field, though. I've already heard, and I don't know how accurate it is, but I've heard there's 14 to 20 buses full of Rutgers students going down. And I know our fans, after watching that BC turnout, the way our fans showed up at Boston, I really anticipate we're going to have a heck of a Rutgers turnout down at the Lincoln Financial Field. Great stadium, great venue. I hear there's pep rallies and everything else. I love it. I love it. Let's paint that place scarlet. Now, are they scarlet? No, they're cherry, right? Yeah, so let's paint it scarlet. Yep.
Can you talk about the rotation at cornerback? How happy are you to play with those guys who are going in and out?
You said cornerback, right? Yeah. I really think that we have some good corners on our team. Certainly Robert's playing at a very high level. I think Max is capable of playing even better than he is. He's playing well. I think Max can play. There's another level for Max. I expect to see that this weekend. And then Braz, I think, is really playing at a high level as well. Kess Abraham's playing at a high level. There's a guy in the wings who's waiting, Carnell Davis, who I think is going to be a really good corner as well. So, we have some young guys that we're developing, but we have these 4 guys that are playing right now, and I think doing a good job. So we'll keep rotating. Again, to the whole philosophy of let's keep playing a lot of people. As long as you have guys that can win the game, make sure they're all in there.
What stood out about Al Shadee through these first couple games?
Well, I think the same thing you see, I see, right? When he touches the ball, we all kind of hold our breath. He's got a different gear than, people we've had around here. I mean, Al Shadee is legitimately fast. But so is Rochelle. I mean, who asked about Rashad? Yeah, I mean, he's got another gear too. One thing that I am excited about is our team speed is markedly getting better each year. And, I just believe speed, I don't like to say speed kills. I think that's corny. But I think speed is hugely effective in the game of football when you have fast people. They cover up mistakes well. They allow you to take advantage of things well. So we'll continue to hunt that at every position. Okay.
Just quick, any injury updates on Aaron or Matt Alamo?
Aaron and Matt are getting better. Don't know if they'll be available Saturday. That's still we're waiting to see. Those are 2, key guys for us that we were counting on to play a lot of football. So I hope we get them back, but never at the cost of their well-being. So, that's on the doctors and the trainers and the medical staff.
Just to piggyback on that, what does the running back depth chart kind of look like when Aaron does get back?
I don't know, right? I mean, it's definitely a work in progress right now. Right now, you can legitimately say there's 2, maybe 3 guys getting touches, right? Sam, I think, showed what he can do. We've seen that in camp and in practice, but now you guys got to see a little bit of it. So, yeah, it's a good running back room. That's what I like, and we just got to make sure that we play to each guy's strengths. And you can do that if you're organized. You can make sure you have the right guys in to do the right things for their strengths. And as they kind of improve their weaknesses, then they can do it. They can do it all. But I think it's important that Coach Orrick's doing a great job with the running backs. He really is. He's got them all playing at a high level of understanding, especially for young kids. I mean, with the exception of Kyle, he's not exactly an old guy, but he's played some football around here. The rest of them are young pups, and they're doing a good job. They're executing their assignments for the most part. So that's a positive. See you down in Philly, guys. Or I'll see you before that, but.
A much too familiar and disappointing refrain for Wisconsin. Another early season non-conference loss, knocking the Badgers from the world of the ranked. Wisconsin didn't play poorly in its loss to Washington State, ran the ball effectively. Graham Mertz was a solid game manager. Just too many penalties and too many mistakes at critical times that allowed Washington State to walk away with a 17-14 win. That was on the heels of an easy 38-0 win over Illinois State. This coming weekend here on Big Ten Network, 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central Time, Wisconsin hosts New Mexico State, a team that Minnesota already dispatched earlier this year, 38-0. Still, as Paul Chryst and company learned the hard way last week, never a good time to take any team for granted. Let's head to Madison now and listen in to the head Badger.
Well, I know that I think most Mondays I mention this, but today, certainly all the way, felt the excitement to get back with this group, and it was good to get going, and obviously, we've got an opportunity to improve, right, and learn from lessons of the first 2 games, and for those that have played longer, how do you apply all the lessons you've learned and put it into making this the best week, and talk all the time and hit again on it that, the week of preparation is so important because it, just to give you a chance to have a chance in the game, and then game day you go out and you get to play the game. But it's, to me, it's so important that you have a great week and like the way we started today, and need to continue to have a great week.
Paul, you talked a little bit about the offensive line, the penalties, and maybe not getting as much movement at the point of attack. In reviewing the tape, what were some of the things that jumped out? Were some of the penalties avoidable, and also that not getting movement at the point of attack? What needs to change there?
Yeah, I think that when you look at it, you always start with, do they know what they're doing, and they going all out? And we had a couple early that we had some mistakes of not doing something that they've done a ton, right? So you got to that's not giving yourself a chance on it. And then the one thing I know about this group is they will do everything they can. They're putting it out there, and I think on some of the penalties, they come up and some are definitely avoidable. We have a hands to the face. You can't do that, and you've got some where guys are going and the game happens fast, right? But that's why you go back and you got to rely on your fundamentals. Kind of where you're at, and I think when you get off of it, and it's not just that's across the board. The penalties were there were some in the O-line, there was some. The cut block was, Braylon's cutting it back or coming, and Fleck got in late on it. I think I see if they just saw the end of it, I get what they see. Tight ends, across the board, you got to play clean. You got to play with great. That's why details matter and the fundamentals matter so much. What your pad level is, but they're working at it and they value it. So but obviously we got those become tough. There's times we overcame them, and then there's sometimes we didn't overcome them.
Paul, to piggyback off that question a bit, when you went back and evaluated all of the miscues in whole, whether it was penalties or special teams or turnovers, do you feel like a lot of these are fairly correctable, or are you a bit further away than you had hoped to be 2 weeks into the season?
No, I think they're, I do believe they're correctable, and I think that, last drive we jump off sides. That's something you got to correct, right? I'm not saying it won't ever happen again, but that's correctable. And then I think you got to then continue to look. Okay, what's causing those things? Is there some form of indecision? Is there communication? And on that one there wasn't. But you can't assume anything. Take the delay coming out of it was the injury timeout. You got to address that and make sure that everyone has the awareness and the urgency there. And that some of the you'll always get some. We had I thought a couple holding calls, kind of the way we had one where the ball really hit on the backside and you don't think it's gonna, and you're kind of putting the. That's one of the dangers of that when you hit it back there. That it goes, and so I think that I do feel turnovers wise absolutely correctable. How we're carrying it. Clay's on that one. The most dangerous is always going to be from behind. And then the next one's the second guy in. But having proper fundamentals, and we had a couple other ones. I thought we were swinging the ball, and we got to clean up the ones that we didn't fumble on. And I think Graham's was absolutely correctable and avoidable. So I think, there are things that I'm not saying we've arrived, but we can. I'm not discouraged that we can't clean that up.
Well, as you evaluated the running backs, especially Braylon, do you feel like he might need to be a little bit more decisive in where he's running? Because it seems like he's trying to look for the big play, maybe not taking those shorter gains that help to keep the offense on schedule.
Yeah, I think that I think he's been really focused on trying not to do that. I think there's a couple. We had a couple perimeter runs where if a guy flashes, then you're coming back and it's not designed to cut back, then it's gonna be tough, and you get chased from behind. Well, that's probably the reason why you're trying to put it on the outside, So it goes. The beautiful thing about this game is it takes everyone, and so I think there's each one of us has areas that we can continue to clean up and work on, and yet. The beauty of the game is it takes all 11, and when all 11 are on, it can be really pretty. And when that doesn't happen, then make it a little bit harder.
I'm just wondering, there aren't a lot of position coaches around the country who make that switch from offense to defense or vice versa, the way Bob Bostad has. I'm just wondering, how much of an advantage do you think that kind of versatility is for an assistant coach, and why do you think there aren't more guys who kind of make that move? I know there are some unique circumstances around his switch,
right.
Just in general.
I don't know that I can speak on the whole. I know I can speak specifically on Bob, and I think we've got a number of coaches that fit that, and I think something that I truly value is that I believe a good coach is just that, a good coach, and whatever the position is, and obviously it helps when you've got a background. But I think good coaches, they know how to teach, and they have a style of teaching, and then they know how to drill whatever it is that they deem most important for the position. What are the fundamentals of playing that position, and I think that's what I think Bob does extremely well. And like I said, I think we got a number of coaches on this staff that you can put them into any room, and because it's the way they see the game and approach it, and okay, what does that player need to be able to do to be successful at it. And then how do you drill that, and how do you get them to understand? I think that's one thing he does well, and then he's relentless on the fundamentals.
Paul, we saw Keontae come up with a couple big catches last week. What skill sets do you feel he brings to this offense that can allow those more dynamic plays to move the chains?
Yeah, I think he's I think he's a competitive, talented player. He's got the game of football. He understands is a contact sport, and he's willing to do that. Saw it early in the first game, and he's got that ability in him. He can run, and he's got a good receiving radius, and I think he likes the game of football.
Paul, I think one of the things we talked to preseason about Graham was when it's third down, do your part to help keep the chains moving. How would you assess? I know it's early, 2 games, but how would you assess what he's done on third down in what things he can control to keep the chains moving?
I think that he's done a number of plays, done a number of things where it's okay. This is what it should be like, and then kind of, I think like all competitors, you got to get to where you still you can't try to make a play. You got to let plays come, and when they come, you got to be ready to seize it. And I think each game there's been a couple of those where I thought he's tried to make a play, and I think there's been a number of them where I've liked where he presented itself and he trusted it, and so I think he's certainly seeing it. Like when you come off, and he's knowing that, and I think he's done a good job of kind of understanding. You're talking about particularly on third down, kind of the looks. You're going to get nowadays you're going to kind of have your normal down and distance package, and then you're going to see the different looks on third down. And you and I both know, we all know that as the season progresses, you only get more and more looks at it. But I've liked the way that he started there.
Paul, it felt like Graham took a lot more shots downfield Saturday. Is that kind of what you guys can add to the offense with the personnel, or is that a product of how Washington State was playing you guys?
Yeah, I think you're right. He did, and I thought there was a couple times I thought it was a good decision, and there's a couple that I thought might have been fortunate. But I think that a lot of plays you've got the ability to do it, and then it comes down to playing. You trust it, then go with it. And the thing that I liked about what he did was I don't think he had any question in his mind. I think that you go back and look at it and talk through it with him, and there's some that you just got to kind of assess the whole play and play each play. But I thought that the thing he's playing with, I think more now that he's got to continue to grow and continue building on. But I think he is playing with a little bit more conviction.
Well, you can see Mertz and Wisconsin, 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central here on Big Ten Network, taking on New Mexico State. You can see it's a busy day, 4 different games. Go to btn.com/gamefinder to find your favorite team. If that team is Northwestern, they will take on the Salukis of Southern Illinois at noon Eastern, 11 Central. And Northwestern will do so coming off the loss to Duke this previous week. 31-23 fell at Ryan Field. Disappointing loss, 4th straight in this series to the Blue Devils. Of course, Northwestern started its year with a win over Nebraska in Ireland, now 1-1 heading in to that game against Southern Illinois. Let's get ready for that matchup as we take you to Evanston. Here's Northwestern head coach Pat Fitzgerald.
Thanks, Paul. Good morning, everybody. Actually, good afternoon right now. Thanks for joining us and being with us. Greatly appreciate you taking the time to cover our team. Let's talk about players of the week to kick things off. On offense, obviously, Evan Hull, just had a spectacular game on Saturday. Most catches, which were 14 by a Wildcat player. That's the most since 2009. Had the most receiving yards, 212. That's the most since 1980. That means I was 6 if you're scoring at home. I had the most receiving yards by a Power 5 running back since 2000. and had the most yards from scrimmage, 278, since Damian Anderson's 292 in 2000 against Michigan. So it was absolutely spectacular performance by him in a lot of different ways. We did not have a defensive player of the week. Special teams wise was Ray Nairo. Again, I pound the drum each week, but I believe he's the best special teams player, not only in the Big Ten, but also in the country. Our big playmaker was Thomas Gordon on offense. He's been coming on here the last few weeks. TG's having a great start to the year. We did not have a big playmaker on defense. Our 3 practice players of the week, defensively, was Owen Bergen. Offensively was Joseph Hyman, and special teams wise was Braden Bruss. Those 3 guys had a great week, and go from there. Disappointed in the outcome of the game. Put ourselves, like I said, post game, pretty solidified when I watched the tape, put ourselves in a pretty deep hole, and I thought our guys showed great resiliency and great fight. And that fighting spirit is something we got to start the game with. We can't put ourselves in the hole like we did, but the guys fought back and, ended up 6 inches short. And that kind of was indicative of the game. I thought we lost a 6-inch war on both sides of the line of scrimmage. Credit Duke for that. And obviously we got to be better fundamentally in those areas. But now another opportunity here at home, and excited. We got Wildcat Welcome Week, so we'll have students in the building next week, which will be fun, and fired up for that, to get some things rolling here, with our students on campus. But, the Salukis have had a tough start. They played an outstanding team, and Incarnate were down on the road and kind of ran into a little buzzsaw, and I think we all see how good they are. They beat Nevada last week on the road, and just a heartbreaking loss to SEMO on Saturday night. Watching the tape, they had that game won multiple times, and some tough, challenging things happened to them down the stretch to lose a heartbreaker at the end. But great respect for Nick Hill. Coach Hill's done a great job there, former great player at SIU, and played for my great friend, Coach Kill, and he's done a terrific job. You look at they're a perennial playoff team, and the success that they've had under Nick's leadership has been really fun to watch. I get excited about watching young head coaches have great success. And I remember being that guy. I'm not that guy anymore, but I remember being that guy. So really happy for Nick and the success he and his players and the staff have had, and a very talented football team that has just been a little snake bitten here early. So we're going to have our hands full. We got to play a lot better than we did on Saturday if we expect to win moving forward. And I know the guys will get to work on that here tomorrow. So with that, how about any questions you may have for me? Thanks again.
Reminder, if you have a question, please message Athletic Communications in the chat. First question, John Riker.
Hey, Coach. John Riker, Daily Northwestern. When you look back at the tape of Evan's performance, what did you see from him that allowed him to be historically effective in the passing game?
Yeah, John. Yeah, I think number one, there was a really good plan put together by Jake and the whole offensive staff. I thought we adjusted well in game. Were they going to be the Texas A&M defense that we saw? Were they going to be Rutgers? What was the combination going to be? And, I think after the first couple series offensively, I thought we settled in to have a pretty good idea of what we were going to see. And then we saw a couple things late that they hadn't shown. So I thought we adjusted pretty well. I thought Ryan was willing to take what the defense gave him most of the day. There were some throws I think he'd like to have back. Now after watching the tape and being, as always, critical of ourselves first schematically, and then, just kind of where we wanted him to put his eyes on some things. But Ryan, I thought played well. And I thought, again, when you think about trying to put the ball in playmakers' hands, there's a lot of different ways you can do that. And I thought schematically we had a good plan. And I thought, Ryan and Evan executed the things pretty darn well.
And as a quick follow-up to that, what did you see from Ryan's placement on Hull's plays, and also the blocking across the board, kind of setting up, especially some of those screens?
Yeah. Well, I thought, again, Ryan, for the most part, again, there's, as always, it's football. You throw the ball 60 times, there's going to be some plays you want back. But I mean, I thought he was, really outside of a couple throws, really on, with where his eyes needed to be and seeing what he needs to see to execute the offense. So, credit him. I thought we executed our screen game pretty well. There were a couple plays that we did not execute that very well in the opener. And I thought that the work that we put in, in the bye and then, coming into last week, paid some dividends. It's tough now in the O-lineman with the new rule where they can't cut downfield too. it makes it a little bit more challenging for them. And I thought the guys did a pretty good job in that area.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Louis Vicaire.
Hey, Fitz, happy Monday. No defensive player of the week this week, which is kind of telling. What did you see on film from the defense, and kind of after 2 games, where are they in terms of your expectations before the season?
Yeah, I think that we're growing. I don't think we're where we want to be yet, Louis, to be honest with you. I think that's all of us collectively, me, our staff, and the guys. I think we had a handful of self-inflicted wounds early in the game, and then I thought we settled in and settled down, and then played pretty well the last 3 quarters. I mean, right now, to me, it's both games have a explosive play negative connotation to them. You know, when we don't give up an explosive play, we've been pretty good. And you know, you look at explosive plays in the run game, they've happened primarily because of missed tackles. You know, we've got guys there, we got to get the ball on the ground. And then multiple missed tackles, frankly. You know, you're going to miss a tackle or 2 here. That's football. But, you know, usually when you miss 2 on a play, it's going to give up an explosive. On the first touchdown, we missed 3. I mean, that's inexcusable. And we've been tackling pretty good. You know, I thought we tackled pretty well the rest of the game outside of a handful. So we just got to get more consistent, and we got to obviously start faster for what I think we needed to be consistent defensively.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Bradley Locker.
Hey, Coach Bradley Locker with Inside NU. Just wondering what type of message you sent to your team post-game after a loss that could be viewed as very gut-wrenching. You guys are obviously driving down the field, have a chance to tie the game, and kind of related to that, how you're hoping to see your team rebound and in some ways just move on from a game like this.
Well, it's not one play. You're right. No, you win as a team and you lose as a team. I know it's one of the most overused coachisms in the world, but it's the truth. I mean, it's, you know, the all those plays, you know, I mean, we've been outstanding in our 2-minute drives this year. I mean, if you're to have one thing that really jumps out to me is, you know, really both sides, how well we've done in our opportunities that we've had in the 2-minute drill on both sides. You know, and it's something that I'm proud of the guys with, and we're not in that situation unless we get a ginormous 4th down or a goal line stand, you know, to put ourselves in position. And again, a lesser character team and a team without the same spirit probably folds the tent right there after a tough turnover. And we, again, didn't really, you know, give ourselves maybe a chance early in that drive because we missed a couple tackles, you know. But the guys bowed up and got us off the field. So I can tell the guys, I love our fighting spirit. We just can't put ourselves in this type of hole. We're fighting an uphill battle the whole game, but they responded well in game. And we got to build upon that. And, you know, we just can't put ourselves in that kind of hole.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lauren Withrow.
Coach, kind of piggybacking on that, the last 2 games, the guys showing they can fight down the stretch when they are coming from behind, but how do you instill that urgency in them from the get, or who are some of those leaders that are kind of taking charge of that down the stretch of the game?
Yeah, well, I think it's collective, Lauren, to start off with. I think number one, you gotta approach it yourself and put yourself in the right mindset to not only start a game, but probably the way you start practice and the way you just go through your daily routine. And you got to self-assess maybe if you haven't been playing as consistently as you want early. I mean, I've told the guys a story, even of myself in training camp, when I think back when I was a young player, you know, I just felt like I was really inconsistent early in games. And I just mentally kind of almost put too much pressure on myself. You know, you feel like there's a weight of the world in your chest, and then you settle down, settle in, and you start to play well. Well, I changed my pregame routine. You know, I didn't go out and hit a bunch of people, but I just went out and was just an absolute emotional, like just monster, I guess I'd say. I don't know any other way to describe it. I was totally out of character to try to start the game in my second wind and just be more focused. I've said that story to the guys a lot in training camp over my years, just because, you know, when you're playing for the first time, regardless of who you're playing, it's more an internal thing as you're learning and growing, and see a little bit of that with some of our, you know, inexperienced guys. I mean, you know, you look at defensively, you know, Ja getting his first start, and, you know, I thought he settled in as the game went along. Jay Lou, you know, first time you're playing safety, playing now 2 games, and, you know, made some plays and settling in. I like where those 2 guys are going, but, you know, they're also getting a baptism under fire. You know, Garnett's out there for the first time. You're seeing a little bit more Theron, and he's had a really good camp, and I like where that's going. And Xander for the first time being out there. Just some guys need to get into their routine and into their, how they're going to settle in and be the player that they're capable of. But man, I love their talent. I love their spirit, and I love the growth that I've seen from them. They've just got to continue to take that. And, it's not anything magical, to be honest with you. You just can't wait for something to happen. You just got to go out and be mentally into it, have the right mindset, and settle in, settle down, and just go execute fundamentally. And usually the game then comes to you instead of you feeling like you got to try to do too much.
Lawrence Price.
Hey, Coach. Lawrence Price, Daily Northwestern. You dropped some of the stats of Evan Hull at the start of the press conference. And, of course, the run game wasn't his rush yards were not as large as his receiving yards. And looking at the running game, what did you see on film that, allowed, or what kind of the early struggles that you all faced? And then, even how important is the run game to the offense?
Oh, yeah. I mean, absolutely. We want to have balance. Everybody does in football. That's ideal. I thought we came in with a really good plan. We just we had a lot of one-man breakdowns. I mean, if you were to pop on the tape, you'd see that. And it was across the board. We had everything targeted well. We had a fundamental lapse. We maybe missed a target and we missed a call, and that was the unblocked player. And credit Duke. They've got really good players up front in the front seven. They've done a nice job. They've only given up 21 points in 2 games. So you got to tip your hat and give credit where credit's due.
We have much more press conference coverage coming your way Tuesday. Ryan Day, Michael Locksley, James Franklin. You typically hear from them on Tuesday, but we will also hear from interim Nebraska head coach Mickey Joseph. He will join us on Tuesday. His thoughts for the immediate future of the Nebraska program after the change in the dismissal of Scott Frost.